Yes, the list of people disappointed in Craig Williams is distinguished and growing. So Craig Williams, up until the general election was announced, was the MP for Montgomery and also the parliamentary private secretary to Rishi Sunak. It means he's Rishi Sunak's eyes and ears in Parliament. But with that comes access. The allegation is that a few weeks back, Mr. Williams marched into a Ladbrokes in his constituency and placed a bet on there being a July election. And a few days later, a July election was called. Now today, Mr. Williams has spoken of his, quote, huge error of judgment. It's been investigated by the Gambling Commission. But this afternoon, the Liberal Democrats have said they want a Cabinet Office inquiry into all this. But of course, the timing of this could not be worse for the Conservatives. Slap bang in the middle of the election campaign. A campaign for which some of their own candidates feel no sunshine has been falling. The party is still recovering from the aftermath of Rishi Sunak's decision last week to leave the 80th anniversary commemorations of the D-Day landings. Centre to that is the question, who knew what and when? What advice was he given? Well, I tried to get to the bottom of that this morning when I sat down with Lord Cameron. But before that, I asked him to cast his mind back to the 6th of June 2014 when he was the Prime Minister at the 70th commemoration. And what did that mean for him in that moment of history?
Well, it's obviously a very emotional day. And it's not so much about being Prime Minister, it's more about actually just meeting these incredible veterans and hearing their stories. And I remember there was a constituent of mine called Mr. Churchill who'd driven his tank up by a high street. He was talking me through it, and you just never forget these things. They're incredible people, an incredible generation, and it was a privilege to be there.
You're smiling as you say that. How did it feel then when you discovered that the current Prime Minister decided that he thought it was appropriate to skip out early of the 80th anniversary?
Well, to be fair, he went to the key Portsmouth event, the British event, the day before, which was full of veterans and magnificently done, as Britain always does these things so well. And he went to the key event above the British D-Day beaches at our magnificent new commemorative centre that this government has helped to build, and met the veterans there. Then he didn't go to the international event, which was quite sort of different in many ways.
Did you advise him?
No, I'm not talking about my advice. I'm a part of a team, and we act as a team, and we defend each other as a team. But to be fair, as soon as he got back to the UK, he said, I regret my decision, I wish I'd stayed longer. And that's the sort of person he is. Instead of sort of digging in and trying to defend a difficult position, he just said, okay, you make lots of decisions as Prime Minister, I know that, and sometimes you make the wrong one. And he was very frank about that.
What people might say is that this is a Prime Minister who does not take advice. So did you or your office give him advice?
I'm not getting into any advice I gave. He certainly takes advice.
So you did give advice then?
I'm not, we're part of a team, right? We have a team captain. I'm loyal to the team captain. We have discussions in private, then we act, and then we stand together.
But what I would say is that people listening to this will take that as you did give him advice, but you just don't want to talk about it.
What I'd say is this Prime Minister does take advice. I know that
just not
working with him. Look, Prime Ministers have to make decisions all the time. How long do I spend here? What do I do? Which minister do I meet? And you get some wrong. He got this one wrong, and he fessed up straight away. And that's the sort of person he is. And a huge contrast, frankly, with what we saw last night from Keir Starmer saying, well, when I said, Jeremy Corbyn would be a great Prime Minister, I only said that because I thought we were going to lose the election. So he wasn't being straight with us. Rishi, I think, has been very straight about this.
And will you be straight with us? Because there are reports that you were, quote, apoplectic.
That's not true at all. And, I would beware these newspaper stories that are based on sort of third-person hearsay.
Are you satisfied with how this campaign is going?
I'm satisfied this is a hugely vigorous campaign. I mean, often at the end of 14 years, you find parties that are sort of struggling to come up with new ideas. But in this campaign, it's a campaign that's fizzing with new ideas and policy proposals from the Conservatives, all fully costed, and a pretty blank page from Labour.
Would you have announced an election in the pouring rain, then gone to a campaign event where the Titanic was built? Would you on TV last night talking about deprivation of your childhood being as not having Sky TV? You would have fired someone by now. Is Rishi Sunak out of touch?
No, not at all. I fought election campaigns. My first one, the first TV debate I did, was a disaster for me, and I spent the entire night wide awake worrying I'd let my colleagues down. You know, campaigns have ups and downs, but the fundamentals of this campaign are strong Prime Minister, strong team, clear plan, weak leader of the opposition, no team, no plan.
Conservative ads on Facebook right now are warning about a Labour supermajority. You're conceding defeat.
Not at all. I mean, I just don't spend any time in the campaign talking about polls or outcomes or possible outcomes.
Labour having a supermajority isn't the Conservatives going out to the nation and saying, yeah, we could still win this.
Yeah, well, my view is very clear. The more people that vote Conservative, the better we'll do.
Okay, so is that campaign ad wrong then? Have they got that wrong?
I haven't seen, I'm not spending my time looking at online adverts. I've never even heard of the phrase super. What is a supermajority anyway? It doesn't actually exist in the UK.
A supermajority effectively means that you would be no shape of opposition.
The only mathematics that really matters in British politics is half of 650. That's the number of MPs in the House of Commons. That's 325. That's the winning post. If you're ahead of that, you've got a majority government, and that's what we're shooting for.
Craig Williams, has he made it any easier for you as a party?
Obviously, a foolish decision. He's being investigated by the Gambling Commission. I don't think there's anything more I can add to that.
Were you apoplectic when you heard about that one?
It's not really a word that kind of springs to my mind. I was pretty baffled and unhappy about it. But look, he has to account for himself to the Gambling Commission and, of course, in front of his constituents.
It's not a great look for the party, though, is it?
It's not great, I accept that.
The shadow stalking the Conservative Party in 2016 was Nigel Farage and UKIP. The shadow stalking the Conservative Party this time around is Nigel Farage, but this time with reform. Would you allow Nigel Farage into the Conservative Party?
It's not my decision. I'm not the leader of the party.
You were once. Would you have then?
Well, he didn't join the Conservative Party while I was leader.
And would you let him?
It's not for me to say. He avowedly is not a Conservative.
Lastly, you were out of office for 7 years. Tomorrow, it will be 7 months since you returned as Foreign Secretary. Has it been worth it?
I've tried over the last 6 months, 7 months, whatever it is, to make sure that we get aid into Gaza, and we've made some good progress there. I've tried to make sure we really support Ukraine in their struggle, and we've seen this, from Britain, 3 billion every year for as long as it takes. That's a massive step forward. One day in office is a privilege, and I've treated every day as if it is that privilege.
Has Rishi Sunak always listened to you?
Yes. I think
Always?
so. Yes, we work as a very good team. He works very hard to deliver for our country, and he listens to his ministers and to their advice. But he's the leader, and we support him.
He sometimes doesn't listen.
Not saying that.